which it was against Thibaut Courtois in the other goal, which I'd probably switch in places now if I could.
First blood to Wimbledon, courtesy of goalkeeper Seb Brown. Seb Brown's guess, and he's saved. He scored now, no! It's been denied by Seb. Seb Brown's done fantastically well.
Welcome to Plough Lane. How are you?
Yeah, good. Very nice to be back.
Welcome back, because I know with your job at Chelsea, it's tough to get to games, and you've been down a couple of times there.
Yeah, obviously had the Legends game, which was good fun, and then been to watch a couple of the games here, one with up in the hospitality and one over on the far side, so it's been nice to see two different sides of it. And yeah, we actually had our end of season awards event here for Chelsea one year when it was the sanction, so it was a bit of a different experience, but yeah, it was good fun.
Very nice. Well, we're here to talk football shirts today. We're going to start off obviously with you before your time at Wimbledon, and you're a Wimbledon fan, of course.
Yeah.
And this is one of your shirts from when you were younger. Talk to me about this shirt. What does it mean to you?
As you can probably tell, obviously size-wise, it was probably why I became a goalkeeper, because I don't know what time I would have been wearing that, but I would have been sort of young. But no, I think it was, I mean, it reminds me now looking at it of going to watch at Selhurst with my old man, and obviously Neil Sullivan was a big hero of mine. So fortunate enough to work with him when he came back in slightly difficult circumstances, obviously when he took my place. But it was good to work with him and see what he was kind of about, and get to kind of learn from his experience as well. But yeah, that one is, as I say, that used to be what I used to wear going to watch the games and stuff like that as a little kid.
Obviously welcoming Neil Sullivan back, like you said, it was slightly difficult because he obviously it was of course competition for the spot, but how was that having someone that you sort of watched growing up come in and have experience as he was at the end of his career? Yeah,
I think you could see, even I think he was like 40 at that point, I think you could see why he'd been at the level he'd been at, and I think for me as a young player to see that, it kind of, you can't help but like learn from it. And I think just having his input on stuff and his kind of, at that point we still had a part-time goalie coach, so he was essentially filling in that role on the other 2 days, so it was good to kind of get his take on what I was doing. And obviously it's difficult because you want to play, but it's one of those where I think he brought a little bit of experience, and he managed the situation really well, considering it was, as I say, it was a little bit awkward for me. But
well, that was obviously a bit of your time at Wimbledon there. Before you joined Wimbledon, joined us on trial, you were at Brentford, of course, and there's some absolutely cracking shirts there with the Coca-Cola Football League patches. Talk about your time at Brentford, obviously as a youth player, and how you found that break into football. Yeah,
so I left Watford as a schoolboy, as an under-16, and kind of was looking for a new club basically, and Brentford offered me opportunities going on trial for their youth team, which I did. Signed a 2-year sort of YTS or apprenticeship. Was fortunate enough, so I joined the club in League One, which is the blue and orange one. I say fortunate enough, it was obviously the year we got relegated, but I was fortunate enough to be involved in the first team squad as basically an under 17, so a 16, 17 year old, which obviously at that age was again, it was a really great experience to kind of see what that is like at that level, and I think that stood me in good stead to kind of kick on and learn from that. And I think the second year of my apprenticeship, I went out and did a work experience loan at Windsor and Eton, which again in terms of experience was great. And then the green one there was from when I made my debut in the Johnston's Paint Trophy, as it was, against Yeovil. So we drew 2 and then 1 on penalties. So kind of
a hero there as well, or
saved one, and they missed 1. So it was, yeah, we won, which was nice. But that was the shirt from my debut, and as I say, it was good times. I did a year's pro there, and then obviously got released at the end of that. I'd been injured for most of the season after that debut, so it was obviously again a different experience and a difficult one, but one I look back on fondly, and obviously everyone now knows where they're at in terms of the sort of trajectory the club's been brilliant ever since. And it was a nice way to end, obviously going sort of winning the league and being part of a League 2 winning squad. So
absolutely. And obviously Brentford, a local club here, so obviously staying relatively local, moving on to Wimbledon. We'll grab a couple of those Wimbledon shirts in a second, but how did that move come about? We'll start on the trial, and then we'll jump into those shirts.
In terms of coming to Wimbledon? Yeah. So again, I'd been released at Brentford. It came through an agent who basically said Wimbledon were looking for someone to do some sort of short-term injury cover, because obviously Andy Little was sort of out of his ACL at that point. So really it was a kind of an off chance really. It was a chance to go, okay, well, it's close to home, like they want you in now to have a look at kind of what you can do. And obviously with my kind of affiliation to the club, it was something that I tried to keep on the down low a little bit, but part of me is like, well, it was good timing really, because obviously having been at Brentford in League One, League Two, Wimbledon was still coming up. We were still progressing through the league, so it sort of met quite nicely in the middle, and was a good time really to come aboard. And fortunately, I did okay in the training sessions and in the games. I still remember the first friendly against, I think it was Wickham, and I think I got a back pass and the pitch was really dry. It wasn't as luxurious as it has out there now, but it was really dry. I got stuck under my feet, and I think at the moment just remembering going, oh my God, please don't let them score here. And luckily, I think the striker had the same issue, and we got away with it. And I thought that would have been me over before it started. But yeah, no, I was fortunate enough to kind of impress enough that they originally offered me on sort of a contract till the end or till Christmas to cover Andy's injury, and then obviously that was the season where Pulley then got injured, and I made my debut up at Tamworth. So yeah, the rest is history.
The rest of history, exactly. We'll leave that there for a second, and we'll grab some of those Wimbledon shirts.
Okay.
There we go. Right, updated the shirts. There we go, one of your first Wimbledon shirts with us. Talk to me through this absolutely green beauty, because it is a lovely shirt. I'd love to see it sort of remade maybe for the club later down the line. Talk to me about it. What comes to mind?
I mean, initially it comes to mind, obviously the fabric and material that gets used now is most certainly very different from that one. It's, when you touch it there, it's so like non-breathable that makes you wonder how we kind of got away with wearing it. But I mean, obviously to carry on from what we said before in terms of coming to the club, that was my first shirt, so it was the number 13 shirt. It was obviously the shirt that I made my debut in terms of away at Tamworth, and then had the opportunity to play a run of games, which at my age to play at that level for my club and stuff like that was great. And then obviously when James Pullen came back into the side, it was kind of a case of, look, you've done great, we want it. So then the contract was extended till the end of the season, so it was a chance for me to kind of have a little bit of comfort. And then I think once we got to a position where we were safe, Terry sort of said, okay, we're going to give you some more opportunities, and then that was almost my audition for the following season really. So yeah, some good memories in that shirt for sure.
And just going back to sort of being a fan and playing for your boyhood club, just how special was that for you, and how much pride did you take putting that jersey on every week?
Yeah, as I say, I tried to keep it quiet initially because I didn't want it to be like almost like a token story really. Oh, they've signed him because of this. So it was only once I'd kind of had that opportunity to play and kind of show what I could do that I thought actually it's probably the right time to mention that and bring that up. But I think it's pretty much what you'd expect it to be, right? It was like it kind of meant more. I mean, I think about the time back at Brentford, and you're playing for yourself because you want to make a career in the game, and then you come and play for Wimbledon. You're still doing that, but there's the bigger picture stuff to it. Obviously there's the opportunity for us to get into the league. There's kind of everyone coming to watch from your family going, okay, we used to watch Wimbledon like back in the day and stuff like that. So yeah, as I say, I can't kind of really put it into words, but it was special.
And then during that sort of special season that we'll touch on at the very end, you did make your national team debut for England C. You made 3 fixtures. You played against Wales, you played against Estonia, and also against Belgium. And I believe it's the yellow is the
yellow
Belgium
one. Green was Belgium.
Yeah.
Yellow was my debut against Wales. So both quite nice kits.
Yeah.
The yellow, so as I say, I came on at half time against Wales. I shared it with Dale Roberts actually, which obviously, given what came to pass with Dale, was unknowingly quite a special kind of moment. So he was my roommate. He'd been on a lot of camps before. He'd been great with me. Obviously it was a really new experience for me. I had no kind of idea what to expect. So to get an opportunity to kind of just go on the camp and to actually play some minutes was, as I say, was something that when you've missed out on kind of the age group national teams, it's kind of the highest honour really that you can target for, and as I say, it was a really kind of proud moment to wear it. And then the green one was against Belgium at Kenilworth Road, which it was against Thibaut Courtois in the other goal, which I'd probably switch in places now if I could. But so because Belgium played, I think they had to play their under-21s team because they didn't have an equivalent. But all I remember is we got absolutely peppered. We scored after about 2 or 3 minutes. We scored on the breakaway and then pretty much camped in our own half. So I ended up getting, I think I got man of the match, just because the sheer amount of shots and stuff we had to deal with. So as I say, that one's probably got quite a happy memory just in terms of how it turned out. And it notoriously been quite a horrible place to go, Kenilworth Road, when we played Luton. So to then go there and actually have some positive memories was really good.
Oh, how our fates against Luton changed. I do want to touch a little bit more on England C before we do head, obviously, to that Luton game. You played alongside some fellow Wombles, Sam Hatton, Stephen Gregory and Max Porter. How did that help you sort of going into that squad, because you already had a few familiar faces? Yeah,
I think it helps for sure. I think it's important, obviously, when you look historically at like the England senior squad in terms of people talking about cliques and stuff like that. I think it's important that we didn't end up forming one of those, but I think it is nice to have a few familiar faces that you could kind of bond with, and certainly in that initial period of camp is kind of get to know. But with football, you kind of know most of the players anyway from playing against them or through another teammate that you know and stuff like that. So it was always quite easy to kind of settle into, but obviously it's also nice to see them get recognition, because I think that's particularly from that team from that year. I mean, we had some outstanding players. Like, I think when you think about players that did get that recognition, you look at like Sam and stuff like that. Even when I watched the penalties back the other day when it was on social media, and you look at some of the penalties like Sam's one, and you think he's getting a lot less credit than I am for taking something that was a lot more pressure for sure. So.
And the England C experience, how did that come about? Was it, so did the coach get in touch with the gaffer, or did they come to you? And what did that look like going away with England?
All I remember really is that I had a message from Eric, basically saying that I'd been selected, this is what it looks like. Then I had a letter through from obviously the FA to confirm it all. But that was pretty much it. It tells you what time you're getting picked up and what you need to take with you and stuff like that. And then it's kind of, once you're there, it all kind of takes care of itself, because it's, as you can imagine, like a well-oiled machine. So yeah, it was pretty kind of, I guess, non-eventful. It was quite formal in terms of this is what's happened, you've been selected. I think when you actually go and kind of represent them, so we used to have to turn up in our like England tie with our suit on and stuff like that, so it was quite formal. I remember we flew to Estonia, so we went at Heathrow and everyone was there suited and booted with their England tie, so it was smart, it was done properly, and I think that's kind of what you would expect of that level. But no, it's just good experience. I think, like I say, we always stayed at good places, we trained at good venues. It was well done.
Good memories to look back on, absolutely. Sure. And talking of memories, let's head to this shirt, and of course another one as well, which we'll touch on just after. But there it says there, AFC Wimbledon versus Luton Town, player final, City of Manchester Stadium. God, there's so many places you can go with this day. Talk to me about the build-up first, though. The build-up to it, a couple of nights before, and yeah, just. I
think just in general, it was the culmination really of a brilliant season. I think we, considering the considerable gap in terms of finance between Crawley and ourselves, I think we pushed them as far as anyone could push them. Obviously, Luton chasing us all the way as well. I think it was just, considering we put together quite a young squad and we bolstered in January with some experience, I think it was a really nice kind of end to that season. In terms of the build-up, we went up a couple of days before, because I think obviously Terry, having been in the same situation before, had lessons that he'd learned, and I think it was probably, looking back, it was a really good way to do it. I think we went up, as I say, a couple of days before, we went and did a stadium tour so everyone could kind of get to grips with what the change rooms were like, where the warm-up areas were, what the stadium looks like, so you're not turning up doing that like tourist thing going, this is brilliant. So I mean, that in itself kind of gave everyone that moment to be a little bit more kind of tourist or a little bit more giddy. And then the second day when we trained there, it was like, no, we're in like focus mode now. So as I say, that was a real big part of it. But
of course, keeping on the other end was Mark Tyler. Here is his shirt that you swapped your first choice one for this. It's quite a nice item to have, actually, and talk to me about other goalkeepers in the game and what they. Is there a bit of a goalkeepers union? Do you all know each other? Yeah, I think there's definitely a union. I think even again when you watch back the footage, we're having a bit of a chat before the penalties and talking about the game, and because obviously we'd had the chance to hit the post, they'd had a chance to hit the post and stuff like that. So yeah, I think
it takes a special person to know what it's like to stand between the sticks. And I'll be honest, as I say, once the penalties had gone in, I wasn't kind of really thinking too much. And he came over and sort of said, "Well done. Look, do you want to swap shirts?" And in the moment I did, but I think looking back, I think that's quite, like you say, it's quite a nice. It's something a bit different to have from that game. And I mean, we had enough spares. You can see the green one behind there, so enough spares going around for me to still have kind of a memory of what I'd worn. But no, I think, like I say, just in terms of how he was on the day, it's obviously difficult to handle losing like that. But he was probably one of the more gracious people to come up to us after and sort of congratulate us. So.
We've mentioned before the game, we've mentioned the shirt swap. Let's talk about the game and those penalties. Being a Boyd Wimbledon fan, getting to penalties, what were you like before the penalties started? You know, as sort of extra time minutes are creeping away, what's your thought processes?
I think once the header had hit the post and literally bounced back straight into my arms, I think it was at that point you start going, oh, could it be our day? But it'd been such a sort of frantic game. I think both teams had sort of golden opportunities to score. I think we'd planned all along. We knew it was going to be a tight game, so we planned all along for penalties. So I think once that final whistle blew, it was kind of almost calming, really, because the kind of chaos of the game was over and we knew what was to come. I think, as I say, we'd practiced for about 6-8 weeks leading up to it, so pretty confident in sort of the rest of the team to deliver. And I think when you look at some of the penalties that were taken, it was a frightening standard, really. Obviously, other than Mo's, but I think just the whole preparation just kind of took that chaos away from it. It was really calming. It was like, obviously as a goalkeeper you've got a little bit less pressure on you in those situations, and it's how you transfer that pressure onto the takers, which obviously was the little piece of paper, which, as I say, is still tucked away in my dad's sort of loft somewhere.
Fantastic. And yeah, when Kedwell puts there, I think that's the memory that everyone goes back to, don't they, all the time. But saving 2 penalties puts you in pretty good stead to win as well. And how special was that? You know, as you came away from that, did you take a lot of pride in that?
Yeah, I think, I mean, obviously it's quite an achievement, but I think just more because of what it meant to the team. I think, like I say, we had such a good group, such a good kind of bond for that whole team, that to be part of kind of the success was just that, really. It was being a part of it and allowing everyone else to be part of it in their own way as well. I think even the lads like Fraser, who was injured and stuff like that, I think they were all kind of a key part of it still. So I think that was probably the biggest thing at the moment, was kind of that we'd done it and we'd achieve what we set out to achieve. And like I say, the sort of personal stuff all comes after. And as I said, I kind of was just in a bit of a blur once kids had put it in, and then everyone came flying over. So chaos
ensued. I actually, a little bit of personal story for this. It was my dad's parents' 50th wedding anniversary, so we were somewhere in Dorset, and we recorded the game. No one could say anything, and we watched back at 1 o'clock in the morning, and it was, I think, still as chaotic when it happened.
Yeah.
It would have gone about 2:30 if we were watching the full game. Let's move into a little bit of life after Wimbledon, and into obviously your role now with Chelsea coaching. Life after Wimbledon saw you head to clubs like Bromley, Whitehawk, Hampton and Richmond, and then finishing as a player coach at Sutton. Talk to me about those last few clubs, and then sort of moving into coaching and what that was like.
Obviously it was kind of difficult leaving here. I kind of jumped quite quickly into going to Bromley, because obviously, so Glyn Schimmel was the goalie coach. Obviously I'd sort of come across from my time at Wimbledon. I think looking back with hindsight, it was probably not a great decision on my part, and I think from there it kind of became more of a kind of a job rather than obviously playing full time and playing for your club. It's obviously you do a lot of it for the passion. So I then started working kind of outside of that, just doing sort of sales jobs and stuff like that, and it kind of took away some of the passion. So it got to a point where I was kind of doing all right in my other jobs. It was, like I say, you're going to play in front of 120 people. Like, it didn't quite have the same buzz, and so that was when I kind of took a little bit of time out. I took about 9 months away from football, like any type of football, and then that was when I sort of found that I missed it, and it kind of coincided with Hampton looking for a goalie coach, Wimbledon Academy looking for a goalie coach. So that was kind of my chance to go, actually, I'm going to see if I like that, and turns out I did, and that's kind of led to where I am now, really.
And going from a player to a coach, does it give you a lot of comfort taking in sort of, you've lived what you're coaching? So is that something that really helped you?
I think it helps for sure. I think it's definitely allows you to have that bit of empathy with the players. I think it gives you an end point that you're trying to get them to. But like I say, I think it's more about, you can't just rely on that. I think it's more about how you use that sort of skill and that knowledge to bring the players on. And I think that's, as I say, when you're kind of working at different levels, so senior level and youth level and stuff like that, you have to use it in different ways, and that's kind of, again, for me, that was a real positive, and I think that helps to kind of, make me the coach that I am at the moment. So.
And you now work at Chelsea as the goalkeeping lead for the Women's Academy. How did that come around, and how have you found it?
So the goalkeeper coach for the first team there was Stuart Searle, who we know, or I know through a kind of one of my old coaches. So he'd reached out because obviously they were looking for someone to come in and kind of head up their sort of girls goalkeeping programme. And it's not very often you get opportunity to kind of go to a club like Chelsea and pretty much have a blank slate. So went in there and kind of pretty much, like we just said, used all of that experience to put in place something for the goalkeepers there. And yeah, it's obviously a lot of work, because I think it's trying to build something, so there's a lot of kind of hard work goes into it, but we're in a really good place now in terms of where it is, and as I say, hopefully the foundation's there now, so we can start building on that moving forward.
Absolutely. And on that note, I think we'll end it there. So thank you everyone for coming along on this journey with us. A massive thank you to the man on my right. We'll catch you in the next one.